Hello and welcome back once again to more Diablo 4. Today for the Season 4 topic, we're talking bosses, because those target, or ladder bosses as they're being called, have changed. We can get new items, there's summoning materials that are dropping in bigger numbers and more consistently from new sources, there's an entirely new boss, Andariel, and her fight and her new drops, uber uniques dropping at a higher rate, and there's the new torment versions of the bosses, which are basically level 200 bosses with even better drops. You'll also find that you're going to get one spark the first time you kill any of these level 200 bosses. We know we're going to get another from finishing the Iron Wolf rep, and we're meant to be getting a third one from Uber Lilith, but for some reason they've either removed that or it's bugged or broken. But we should be able to get 3 sparks by playing the game, beating challenges, hopefully being able to get that last spark when we actually find an Uber if we need it. So there's lots to cover here and important information to know, so let's get straight into it. As you probably know, the ladder bosses all require specific summoning materials. With those, you can go to the boss location, spend them and summon the boss. The new tormented versions are also summoned here in the same way, only there's now a new tab we swap between for the normal version or the tormented version. You can see that the tormented versions require way more materials and a new material on top, but since they're worth way more, it is worth it if you can. In any case, those summoning materials, you get them from more sources now. That's because they can actually drop in the new Helltide Reborn as random or relatively consistent bonuses. Since we've been leveling hard in the new Helltide, you'll likely find you've got more than normal, even some ready to go now. Personally, I'm getting a ton of Distilled Fear from clearing Nightmare dungeons. Not to mention I've got this massive pile of steel from the chests in Helltide. This is just so much better. Let's run down the bosses and then new loot pools though, where to summon them, what you actually need to summon them with. First up though, we have Andariel, the new boss, which can be found here in the Hanged Man's Hall, which is just next to this waypoint, or Zabinzet as an actual town. Andariel is something you can consider equal to Duriel in terms of worth. You'll also need to be in World Tier 4 to fight her. Her echo is level 100 and her drops are the same as Duriel, which means that she's just as good as Duriel for uber unique farming. For regular uniques, here's the list via wowhead.com to look at, rather than me sitting here and just saying them all out loud one by one. But it's the same drops as Duriel, to be clear. I guess the point of this is to give us a whole other set of summoning materials that work for the same drops. If you don't have any summons for Duriel right now, you might have some for Andariel, and that's nice. Now, to summon Andariel, you're going to need 2 new summoning materials. 2 of the Sandscorched shackles, dropped by Zir, and then 2 of the pincushioned dolls, dropped by the Beast in the Ice. But do be aware that the tormented version of Duriel and Andariel here have higher uber unique drop chances than the normal echo versions, so it's ultra worth doing that, especially here. Now, obviously, she's still very easy if she's not tormented. As you can see, I basically one-shot her. The torment version is going to be a lot more challenging. Be aware that she's going to use fire, lightning, poison, and shadow damage. She'll spawn in adds to kill in these fields, cut up the room to avoid, chase you with a laser beam blast at the same time, all while sending missiles to avoid on top. Now, since we just covered Andariel, why not highlight Duriel next? Duriel's the same drops, World Tier 4, level 100, your best place for uber uniques outside of Andariel. To find Duriel, you want to come down to the southwest point of the map by Gear Cull, and it's in here in the Gaping Crevasse. We'll need 2 Shards of Agony from Grigoire and 2 eggs from Varshan, as per usual for 1 Duriel summon. He is the same as always though, so just bring max poison resist and watch out for those burrow holes on the ground. Here's the drop table for the uniques though, which are just like Andariel's. We'll be killing lots of Duriel and Andariel in Season 4, but ideally you'll do it in the tormented version, which again we're going to talk about in a moment. But next, let's first blast the 4 bosses to quickly talk about the materials you need to summon them. First, we'll have Grigoire, which is over on the west side of the map, just below Ked Bardu. You find him still in the Hall of Penitent. In World Tier 4, you're going to need 5 living steel to summon him, which you'll find in the Helltide from random drops as usual, but mostly in the steel chests open for 275 cinders. Easier than ever though, because you're getting greater numbers just being dropped overall. Grigoire is a lightning type, so be wary of that. And on screen is Grigoire's loot table for the uniques. Credit again to Wowhead for the visual to reference. Grigoire drops the shards we need for Duriel summons. Second up, we have Varshan, which you need to come here to the Tree of Whispers as usual and go into the Malignant Burrow. To summon Varshan, it's a bit more awkward. You need 1 of each body part. There's 4 total. There's the femur, which is the bone. Then there's the head, the heart, and the hand. But you can just head to any alchemist to trade body parts to RNG roll the part you might be missing, or convert hearts directly into the parts. Otherwise, you do find these parts from grotesque depters that spawn around the world, or after world bosses, and by handing Whispers too. Varshan is a shadow-based enemy, and here is his loot pool, again thanks to Wowhead. Remember that the unique rings for those old Malignant Season 1 powers are also dropped here, which was added in a previous season. Varshan also drops the eggs needed for Duriel summons. Moving forward though, we now have Lord Zir, which is found here in the Darkened Way, just southeast of Kovo. You'll need 9 Exquisite blood as usual, which is still rewarded from killing world bosses and completed Legion events, but now they also drop from, say, Blood Maidens in Helltide Reborn, and you should get some randomly in the Helltide events, either way much like the Steel, so much more consistent. Zir is also a shadow-based enemy, so bring that resistance. On screen should be his unique loot pool, thanks again to Wowhead. Zir now drops the shackles that you'll need to summon Andariel as well. Last up, we have the Beast in the Ice. You'll need to come to an occultist because what you do to summon him, rather than go to a specific point, is go to craft sigils, and under ancestral you can see his 2 types. We have the normal version and the tormented version, both requiring distilled fear and sigil powder. It's basically just crafting a sigil, activating it, going to the dungeon, going to the end and fighting the boss. Distilled Fear is very common now though. You always get 1 when completing Nightmare dungeons, or 3 at tier 90 plus 1s. The chance of drops throughout the dungeon also goes up the higher the tier you're in. I seem to have more than I ever need at this point, because you also get them from world bosses, and even in the Helltide. Just be aware it's a cold element enemy. This is the loot pool for his uniques. Once again, thank you to Wellhead. Now, as a funny little bonus in regards to the loot that you can get that I've just talked about and shown on screen, it's been bugged. This little addition won't matter if you're watching this, I don't know, even a few days after the video goes out, but basically many uniques were found to be really rare or just non-existent, like they weren't dropping for anyone. So for example, Cotton was really struggling to get a sword, Josh was desperately hunting Godslayer and could not get it, and that's why. So hopefully that fix goes out so fast that this part of the video doesn't even matter. But with that, it's finally time for me to talk about the Tormented versions, which are again mostly just level 200 upgraded options. They require 3 times the amount of the same summoning materials to summon though, but the reward is increased. It is well worth it. Importantly, the first time you kill tormented bosses, you'll get a resplendent spark, which if you're unaware, you can come to any alchemist and go to the transmutation tab, where we can go to transmute sparks, and this is where you do the crafting of your uber uniques. I've killed 1 tormented boss, so you can see that I've got 1 spark. So with that, that's my spark from the tormented bosses. Fortunately, there are other sources, like completing the Iron Wolf rep, and assuming they actually get their hotfix in, Uber Lilith should be dropping hers too as well. On top of the normal mats you need for those greater number summons, you also need this new summoning currency, Stygian stones, found in the pit and world bosses in tier 4. Your chance of getting the stones in the pit goes up though, the higher tier pit you clear, as you might imagine. And on the bright side, we want to be doing pit anyway for masterwork purposes, so it's a nice double up. The torment bosses are also going to drop items at 925 every time, whoever they are, and in season 4, all of the different bosses have better odds to drop uber uniques, so good luck. In terms of difficulty, they're just level 200. They're dealing more damage, they have way more health. That's a bigger challenge. You'll need a base amount of survivability so you can even survive their attacks, but generally you want to avoid everything they do as normal while having high enough DPS to actually kill them. If you can take a bit of time to kill them safely like we did here for the first kill, it's completely fine. But as a reminder, just a rundown of the bosses in Torment version, Beast in the Ice will require you to do the sigil crafting again, but now it's 27 Distilled Fear and the Stygian stones. Then we have Zir, that's 27 blood and the 2 stones. Grigoire is going to be 15 steel and the stones. Varshan is 3 of each of the 4 body parts, which sucks. Andariel is now 6 shackles and 6 dolls. And then Duriel 6 shards of agony and 6 eggs, plus the stones. And that's all the materials you're going to need. It's just 3 times the amount, and then those 2 Stygian stones for all of them. On top of all of that, I should mention the pinnacle boss, the Echo of Lilith. She is worth killing when you're ready, because on that first kill, she's also going to drop a resplendent spark, which is a great little addition. But finally, that brings us to our conclusion. Hunt the Echo versions for all your uniques and relevant items, and then make sure to kill every Tormented version once, at a minimum, so you can get your first uber unique crafted. Lastly, farm the Tormented versions over regular Echoes. The moment you're strong enough, they're more effective, especially Andariel and Duriel, since they have much better uber unique drop chances. If you guys have any extra information or advice, be sure to drop it in the comments, but I hope the video helped you. For now, I've been Hollow, you've been you, thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.